Today we will be discussing the femoral triangle. It is a triangular depression on the front of the upper one-third of the thigh below the inguinal ligament. Its apex is facing downwards. The boundaries of the femoral triangle. Laterally, it is bounded by the medial border of the sartorius muscle. Medially, it is bounded by the medial border of the adductor longus, and the base is formed by the inguinal ligament. Apex is formed by the meeting of the medial and the lateral borders. The floor, it is a gutter-shaped and muscular. From lateral to medial side, it is formed by muscles. Laterally, there is iliacus, then psoas major, then pectineus, and adductor longus. The roof of the femoral triangle is formed by fascia lata having saphenous opening. The superficial fascia overlying the roof contains superficial branches of the femoral artery and accompanying veins, upper part of the great saphenous vein, superficial inguinal lymph nodes, femoral branch of genitofemoral nerve, and branches of the ilioinguinal nerve. Now the contents. The main contents of the femoral triangle are femoral artery and its branches, femoral vein and its tributaries, femoral nerve, deep inguinal lymph nodes, and lateral cutaneous nerve of the thigh. In addition, it also contains the femoral branch of genitofemoral nerve and fibrofatty tissue. The femoral artery traverses the femoral triangle from the midpoint of its base to the apex. The artery passes downwards and medially. As a result, at the base of the triangle, it lies lateral to the femoral vein, but at its apex, it lies anterior to the femoral vein. The femoral artery gives three superficial branches that are the superficial epigastric, superficial external pudendal, and superficial circumflex iliac, and two deep branches, that is the profunda femoris artery and deep external pudendal. The profunda femoris artery is the largest branch of the femoral artery. It arises from the lateral side of the artery about 3.5 centimeters below the inguinal ligament. It gives rise to medial and lateral circumflex femoral arteries. The deep external pudendal artery pierces the fascia lata and passes medially behind the spermatic cord. The femoral vein accompanies the femoral artery. The vein lies posterior to the femoral artery at the apex and medial to the artery at its base. It receives the great saphenous vein and profunda femoris vein and veins corresponding to the superficial branch of the femoral artery. Now the femoral nerve, it lies lateral to the femoral artery outside the femoral sheath in the groove between the psoas major and iliacus muscle. About 2.5 centimeters below the inguinal ligament, it divides into anterior and posterior divisions which enclose the lateral circumflex femoral artery between them. The anterior division gives the two cutaneous branches, intermediate and medial cutaneous nerve of thigh. The medial cutaneous branch accompanies the lateral side of the artery. At the apex of the triangle, it crosses the front of the artery from lateral to medial side. The posterior division gives rise to one cutaneous nerve, the saphenous nerve. It extends downwards along the lateral side of the artery. The deep inguinal lymph nodes are usually three in number and lie medial to the upper part of the femoral vein. Femoral sheath. Now, what is femoral sheath? It's a funnel-shaped fascial sheath enclosing the upper 3 to 4 centimeters of the femoral vessels. It has anterior and posterior layers. Anterior layer is formed by the continuation of the fascia transversalis, and the posterior layer is formed by the downward continuation of the fascia iliaca. The femoral sheath is divided into three compartments: lateral, medial, and intermediate. Lateral, intermediate, and medial. The lateral compartment of the femoral sheath contains the femoral artery and the femoral branch of the genitofemoral nerve. The intermediate compartment contains the femoral vein, and the medial compartment is small and is known as the femoral canal, which contains the lymph node that is known as lymph node of Colocott or lymph node of Rosenmuller. Now, what is adductor canal? Adductor canal is also known as the subsartorial canal or Hunter's canal. It is an intermuscular tunnel situated on the medial side of the middle one-third of the thigh. It extends from the apex of the femoral triangle above to the tendinous opening in the adductor magnus below. It provides passage to the femoral vessels from the femoral triangle to the popliteal fossa. Now, boundaries of the adductor canal. Anterolateral wall is formed by the vastus medialis. Posterior wall is formed by the adductor longus above and the adductor magnus below, and the medial wall, that is the roof, it is formed by a strong fibrous membrane stretching across the anterolateral and posterior boundaries. The roof is overlapped by sartorius muscle, and below the sartorius there is subsartorial plexus of nerves. The subsartorial plexus of nerves lies on the roof of underneath the sartorius, that is between the roof and the sartorius. The plexus is formed by the branches from the medial cutaneous nerve of thigh, saphenous nerve, and anterior division of the obturator nerve. Now, contents of the subsartorial canal or adductor canal are femoral artery, femoral vein, saphenous nerve, nerve to vastus medialis, and anterior and posterior divisions of the obturator nerve, and descending genicular branch of the femoral artery. The femoral artery enters the canal at the apex of the femoral triangle, traverses the whole length of the adductor canal, and leaves it by passing through the tendinous opening in the adductor magnus. Within the canal, it gives the muscular branches and a descending genicular branch. The descending genicular branch arises before the femoral artery leaves the canal. The femoral vein, it lies posterior to the artery in the upper part and lateral to the artery in the lower part. The saphenous nerve, that is the longest cutaneous nerve of the body, crosses the femoral artery from lateral to medial side. Anteriorly, it leaves the canal by piercing the fibrous roof. The nerve to the vastus medialis, that is the thickest muscular branch of the femoral nerve, lies lateral to the femoral artery and enters the vastus medialis in the upper part of the canal. The posterior division of the obturator nerve runs on the anterior surface of the adductor magnus and ends by supplying the knee joint. So these were the contents of the adductor canal. Now femoral nerve, femoral nerve is the chief nerve of the anterior compartment of the thigh. It is the largest branch of the lumbar plexus and arises from the dorsal divisions of the anterior primary rami of L2, L3 and L4 nerves. It enters the thigh posterior to the inguinal ligament, lateral to the femoral sheath. So this femoral nerve lies outside the femoral sheath, about 2 centimeters below the inguinal ligament. It divides into anterior and posterior divisions, which are separated by the lateral circumflex femoral artery. Anterior division gives off two cutaneous branches and one muscular branch. The cutaneous nerves are medial cutaneous nerve of thigh and intermediate cutaneous nerve of thigh, and the muscular branch from the anterior division is the branch which supplies the sartorius. Posterior division gives one cutaneous branch, that is the saphenous nerve, and four muscular branches that supply the quadriceps muscles. A femoral artery is the chief artery of the lower limb. It is a continuation of the external iliac artery and enters the femoral triangle behind the inguinal ligament at the mid-inguinal point. It runs downwards and medially successively through the femoral triangle and adductor canal. At the lower end of the adductor canal, it leaves the thigh through the adductor hiatus, that is the tendinous opening in the adductor magnus, to enter the popliteal fossa, while it continues as the popliteal artery. Branches of the femoral artery are, it gives three superficial branches, that are the superficial epigastric artery, superficial circumflex iliac, and superficial external pudendal artery. Now, three deep branches are profunda femoris artery, deep external pudendal artery, and the muscular branches. In the adductor canal, it gives the muscular branches and the descending genicular artery. The deep external pudendal artery arises just below the superficial external pudendal artery and passes medially deep to the spermatic cord or round ligament of the uterus and supplies the scrotum or labia majus. The descending genicular artery leaves the canal by descending within the substance of the vastus medialis and divides into articular and saphenous branches. The saphenous branch, that is also known as saphenous artery, accompanies the saphenous nerve as it emerges through the roof of the adductor canal. Since the femoral artery is quite superficial in the femoral triangle, it is the preferred artery for cannulation and injecting dye to perform procedures like angiography, a coronary angiography, and angioplasty. Now, profunda femoris artery we will discuss when we discuss the medial compartment of the thigh. Thank you very much.